Good morning. Well, it happened. I figured that if I missed a week or we skipped a week of a video that I would forget to do it, and so I did. But here I am, and I hope that you'll be able to use this today. We're looking at Mark chapter 11, beginning with verse 12 and going through 26 this morning. And if you haven't read it yet, then cut off and come back after you're done. All right, we have what I often call a sandwich story in this passage. We have the first part of the story, and then a middle part, and then the story finishes up. And when Mark does that, it's always the middle part is relates to the other two parts, or I should say the sandwich, the bread, if you will, the top and the bottom. They somehow illustrate what Jesus is trying to get at in the middle. And so we have this. The story of the fig tree, the curse in the fig tree, which is interesting that it wasn't the season for figs, and yet Jesus curses the tree. But there's something there about this wasn't the season of that is important when he comes down to on reaching Jerusalem. Jesus goes in the temple courts, and of course there are the money changers. Now the money changers were bad guys, not because so much that they were exchanging money or selling doves or whatever they were doing. The problem is that they were cheating people. The temple tax, if you will, it had to be paid for in a non-Roman coin, or a coin that didn't have an engraved image of a person or an animal or whatever. So this temple shekel was a little just like a token at Chuck E. Cheese, and the token, of course, didn't have Chuck E. Cheese on it. It had as I recall, it had a palm branch on one side. I don't remember what was on the other side, but it wasn't a picture of anyone. And you would come in with your Roman money. You would buy a temple shekel, which was very expensive, and then you go and you drop your temple shekel inside the temple, you'd leave, and then they'd collect all the tokens and resell them. So it was a heck of a racket, and they were selling them or inflating the price of a temple shekel, which wasn't legal currency pretty much anywhere else. The other part that was going on, of course, is that there was all these animals that were being sold for sacrifices. If you came from Nazareth or whatever, you didn't want to bring a bird with you the whole way. You'd buy one there. But again, they were selling them at very inflated prices. That's one. But B is that the whole area that they were selling in, they'd taken over the temple courts of the nations, which is the outermost court, and it was filled with market stalls, so that the Gentiles, those who were non-Jewish by birth, they would come, and there was no place for them to worship. And so, if you will, they were everything there was somewhat out of season. What was happening was okay, except for the cheating, but also the where it was happening. And so, again, we have this cursing in it, and then Jesus clears the temple and calls them thieves. And this is supposed to be a house of prayer for the nations, and you've made it into a place for robbers. But you've got this middle piece, and the two pieces around it relate to it. So for discussion, if you want, you might want to look at the story of the fig trees and the cursing, and especially what Jesus says about prayer, whatever you ask, believing in prayer, and see and look at how that relates. And thanks for joining me. Again, sorry it's late, but I'm glad we got it done. Thanks.